few months ago, Infocus released a really great phone, the Infocus M810T, which was pretty much the 1+1 at $160. But they're still not as popular as companies like Elephone, Ulefone, etc. Hey guys, Zijin here, and this is the Infocus M560, also known as the M808 or the i808 or the V5. I don't know why Infocus really gave this phone a ton of names. But anyways, it has some pretty normal specs, MTK octa-core, 1080p screen, 2GB of RAM, but it costs just $115 everything in, so it's pretty cheap for specs like these. Infocus really created a finished package with the M810T in the past, and I hope they can do the same thing here with the M560. I'm going to tell you what's great and what's not so great, so keep on watching to find out. So the phone doesn't look bad per se, but it definitely doesn't look cutting edge. It just doesn't have that futuristic look that phones like the Galaxy S7 does. It feels like the designers took the safe route in terms of design. The phone also isn't very compact, even though it's a 5.2-inch phone. It's a little on the big side. You don't get capacitive buttons at the bottom, but just the Infocus logo, which in my opinion is a little bit of a waste of space. On the right side of the phone, you find the trays for the nano SIM, the micro SD card slot, and the buttons on the left. The button placement is going to be awkward for right-handed users, but if you're a lefty like me, it's perfect. When you compare this phone to the Infocus M810T, which was encased in glass, the M560's metal back feels really solid and durable. I rate the build quality as extremely solid and sturdy. It inspires confidence that your phone won't break. However, the phone is a little on the big side, and it doesn't look as sleek or cool as I would like. The screen here is a 5.2-inch screen at 1080p. Stuff generally looks sharp, but the colors are on the blue side, but you can change that. Under the display settings, there are a couple of options you can choose to customize the screen, which can be useful depending on how you want your screen to look. Maximum brightness is decent at 450 nits, and you can use it in sunlight pretty good, but not that great. The Gorilla Glass is also very tough, so you don't have to worry about scratching it. Overall, the screen quality is quite good, nothing to complain about here. The speaker is located below the capacitive buttons and fires towards you, so it sounds much louder than if fired backwards. Volume-wise, the speaker is quite loud, but not that loud. You will have trouble hearing soft speech in a loud environment, like a cafeteria, so if you're watching like a TV show, you might not be able to hear what they're saying. Quality-wise, it isn't bad at all. The quality is no boom sound, but it's definitely pretty good for most things. So battery life. The battery is small at only 2450 mAh for an octa-core 1080p phone. I hope battery life is good or at least decent, but let's see how the battery performs. The first test was a web browsing test, where the phone constantly reloads web pages. The phone died after 4 hours and 39 minutes. The next test was playing back a video file until it died, and it died after 6 hours and 3 minutes. I was able to go 16 hours off the charger. My usage was mostly texting, Facebook, reading some news, and some light gaming. I had a total of 2.5 hours of screen on time before my phone died at 10 PM. Battery life here isn't stellar. If you recall the Infocus M810T review, that phone had the same issue with battery life. If you are a light user, you don't have to worry too much about battery life. You can easily get through a day. But if you are a medium or heavy user, this phone might not be able to get you throughout a day, so keep a charger close by. You get Android 5.1 Lollipop installed on this device, and using this phone is really smooth. It's super fast and fluid, launching and closing apps was also no problem at all, and very zippy. However, the standard launcher isn't very nice to look at least to me, but you can replace it pretty easily. There's a ton of pre-installed apps on this phone, and I hesitate to call them bloatware, simply because many of them are actually pretty useful, so I'm not going to complain that much about the bloatware here. You don't get smart gestures on this phone, which leaves me a little disappointed. The notification LED on this phone is located above the screen and works like most other LEDs. I heard reports of this phone heating up really easily, but strangely enough, I didn't encounter any of that. But then again, my house temperature is 16 degrees Celsius, which is about 60 Fahrenheit, and it's -5 outside currently, so about 23 Fahrenheit. Long camera sessions, which apparently heated up other people's phones, didn't do anything to me, but then again, I was outside, and there was long periods of gaming as well, where the phone got warm, but it didn't get hot. So again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. The Octacore processor had no problems running intensive games at 1080p resolution. I installed and ran Nova and played it, and there was no lag whatsoever, but the phone does get warm when doing intense things. I ran Antutu as well and got a score of about 36,000, which is a little bit on the low side for the 6753 processor. You guys might have noticed in the top right corner of my phone it's saying that there's no SIM inside, and that's because I had to take it out and put it back in my Redmi 3 for calling and texting, just to let you guys know. This phone has all the standard GSM, WCDMA, and LTE bands, but they're a little unconventional compared to normal Chinese phone bands and might actually be more compatible in places like North America and Europe. Do check that your carrier uses the same band this phone does. Reception is great, calls never dropped, and texts were perfectly fine. I had a strong signal all the time. Wi-Fi reception was also really good, Bluetooth worked just fine, and GPS reception is also pretty good. In conclusion, connectivity overall is good. You get data reception, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth all work pretty well. GPS is also pretty good as well. So we have a 13 megapixel camera here, and the pictures that are taken are pretty detailed, but color reproduction is average, a little bit on the muted side. However, one above average thing on this camera are the low light pictures. There's obviously quality degradation, but it's a lot less bad than other Chinese phones like the Redmi 3 or the Unlace MX Base. The front-facing camera is average, good enough for video calls and maybe some selfies. The video quality is also not bad, as you can see from this part of the video. Overall, camera quality has left me quite impressed, but you really should turn on HDR for pictures because of the color reproduction. So what is the verdict on the Infocus M560, also known as the M808, i808, or the V5? It's really cheap for the specs you get. $115 for an octa-core 1080p screen, 2 gigs of RAM, all respectable. The build quality is also solid and durable, but don't forget the not so good parts as well. Battery life isn't that good, it's average at best. Performance is fine, but it overheats when doing intense gaming and snapping photos apparently, although I didn't encounter any of that. But then again, I live in a pretty cold part of the world. It's a little big for a 5.2-inch phone, and it doesn't look as futuristic or cool as other phones. Honestly, all my previous bad points are kind of minor, except for the battery life and for the overheating, which I didn't encounter at all. Even considering these 2 points, I would still recommend this phone at $115, as you do get a lot of phone for just $115. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to hit and subscribe and check out any of my other videos as well.